There's a question that people often ask in their interview that might torpedo your chances at getting the job. Stick around and I'll tell you what it is. Hey everybody, it's Brian from Life After Layoff, and today I want to share with you an interviewing mistake that I hear people making consistently in their interviews, and I want to help you avoid the pitfall, because oftentimes when you ask this question, it can actually hurt your chances at getting the job, even though it's designed to help you. But before I share that, if you're interested in more interview content just like this directly from a corporate recruiter, make sure you hit the subscribe button. You might also want to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future content. So there's obviously some advice going around that job seekers should ask the interviewer in their interview some version of this question. And it's, is there anything about my candidacy that would make you hesitate moving me forward? Essentially, what you're saying is, I assume that there's something in your notes that you're not going to like about me, that you're not going to move me forward in the interview process. And so let's just get it out on the table. Now, obviously, that's a negative mindset, and it comes from a place of weakness. Again, you're assuming that you didn't get the sale. And when you assume that you didn't get the sale, you asking that question shows you as somebody who is at the mercy of the employer. Now, if you're truly in control of your career, you shouldn't be in a position where you have to beg for a job. And to me, it kind of comes across that way. I want to come in with a position of power, of strength, of confidence, and assuming that I'm going to get a job offer at the end. So I want to break down why this question is potentially damaging for you and another way that you can go about asking it. So first, you have to understand the optics of what the question is designed to ask and then what it's actually doing. When you ask the question, I think the theory behind it is you can address any issues or any concerns that the interviewer might have, and then you can end the interview on a high note. Essentially, you're closing out the interview by asking them to reflect negatively on your candidacy and any potential gaps that you might have. And that's not the lasting impression that I want to make as I leave the interview. Instead, I want to be building up that goodwill and ending it on a high note, and really getting them to think about why I'm such a great fit for their job. In addition to that, it also creates an uncomfortable situation because oftentimes interviewers aren't prepared to share that information right then and there because they haven't convened with the rest of the interview team, or maybe they haven't finalized their notes at that point in time. And I know this is a great pain point for job seekers, but there are a lot of companies that have specific policies against sharing details of a job interview because they could go sideways, and the legal teams will step in and say, we don't share any of that stuff, because I've had more than one situation where a candidate became very confrontational, and obviously that's not a good result when you're sitting in an interview. And if they do share information with you, the chances of it actually being honest feedback are probably pretty slim as well. Usually it'll be something generic or sugar-coated to the effect of, nope, we have everything that we need, we appreciate all of your time and your detail, and we will let you know when we have a decision. So essentially what they're doing is they're dodging the question because it places them into an uncomfortable situation. And here's the thing, it's not effective because by the time you get to the end of the interview and you ask this question, the interviewer has already made up their mind about your candidacy. There's no backpedaling to change their mind, and you're basically trying to play catch up at this point. You want them to associate you with positivity and feeling like you're a good fit for the job. And I don't want to highlight that at the close of my interview, what might have been an otherwise positive experience suddenly becomes negative because that's what we're focused on as we close it out. So hopefully I've convinced you that it's not a good question to ask. But you might be saying, okay, well, what else can I say in order to get the same information? Well, here's the best practice. We want to try to ask questions as early into the interview process as we can. Waiting until the end is not the right time to try to convince them of your fit for the job. Again, we've already made up our mind, we already have our decision made, and you're not going to be able to backpedal your way into a job offer. The decision gets made typically in the first half of the interview. And I'll be honest with you, I would surmise that most interviewers probably know whether or not you're going to be a yes or no within the first 10 minutes of the interview itself. So you want to make sure that you're coming out of the gate very strong. And therefore, I'm going to do a couple of things. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to study the job posting as carefully as I can so that I get a very good understanding of what it is that they are assessing in the interview itself, and make sure that I'm hitting on those bullet points as I go through my job interview. And the second thing I would do is ask any specific questions early into the interview before the interviewer gets started with their questions. Because when you do that and you understand what it is that they're looking for, then you can position yourself throughout the rest of the interview to be the best possible fit for the role. So you might want to ask a series of questions to ascertain what it is that they're assessing, so that you're not guessing and then you're not playing catch up and you're not trying to backpedal at the end. And if you want some ideas on questions that you can ask, check out this other video that I made, 10 questions that you should ask your interviewer during your interview. That'll give you some great suggestions and a starting point for starting to implement a little bit more strategy into your interview process. So hopefully I've convinced you to stop asking that question. It's not helping you, it's only hurting you, and there are better ways to go about it. But if you're somebody that's struggling in your interviews and you just can't seem to get across the finish line, that's actually something that I specialize in. I've got a website called alifeafterlayoff.com, which is loaded with tips and tricks, all from a recruiting insider's perspective. And I share my deepest and most intimate knowledge in the form of some training courses with regard to interviewing. The first course is called the 48-Hour Interview Crash Course. That course is designed to teach you how to prepare for just about any major corporate interview process in as little as 48 hours. And if you want a deeper and more robust look at the entire job search process, check out the Ultimate Job Seeker Bootcamp, because it starts from job search, goes through each round of the interview process, and then ultimately gets you to the job offer. I break down each step of the interviewing process in great detail, teaching you how to dissect the job posting, teaching you exactly what it is that they're looking for, and giving you the interview strategy you need to ultimately land at the job offer. I also teach you how to make sure they don't leave any money on the table through careful negotiation. And keep in mind, just like everything else in our career, interviewing is all about strategy. If you know exactly what it is that you're doing, you're going to increase your chances of getting the job offer at the end, and that's the goal. Anyway, hopefully you found this video to be helpful. Appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next one.